Marcus Johnson woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of a stranger in his kitchen. The woman standing there was dressed in his clothes, moving through his small, worn-down home with an unsettling familiarity. She turned, and her smile was not warm. It was a calculated assessment. This was no simple morning after. This was the CEO of the company that owned the very roof over his head, a black man who had saved her life in a storm. And as she looked him over, her first words weren't of gratitude, but a quiet, devastating question that questioned his very right to be there. What would you do when your act of kindness becomes a threat to your family's survival? Life for Marcus Johnson was a carefully balanced act of survival. His world was his 7-year-old daughter, Zoe, and the relentless hustle to keep a roof over their heads. That roof was a small, rented house in a neighborhood that had seen better days, but it was filled with love and the echoes of better times. Once a promising engineer, Marcus now worked with his hands, fixing leaks and rewiring old homes for landlords who rarely thanked him. The ghost of his former career lingered in the intricate models he built from scrap wood, dreams shelved for the practicality of paying the bills. He taught Zoe a simple mantra as they counted coins for groceries. We may be broke, but we don't break. She understood too much for her age, her bright eyes seeing the worry he tried to hide. The tension of being a black man in a system skeptical of his worth was a constant, low hum in the background, a pressure to be twice as good, twice as polite, just to be seen as equal. The storm that changed everything began as just another late job. Rain hammered his old truck as he drove, the wipers struggling to clear the sheet of water. His mind was on Zoe, safe at a neighbor's, and the long night ahead. Then his headlights caught it, a spectacle of twisted metal and flickering light. A luxury car wrapped around an old oak tree, steam rising from its hood like a dying breath. Without a second thought, Marcus pulled over and ran into the downpour, his own safety an afterthought. The woman inside was pale, trapped, her expensive clothes soaked through. He worked quickly, smashing the window and cutting her free, his strong hands pulling her to safety just as the first flames licked at the car's interior. He brought her to the only safe place he knew, his home. He gave her his bed, his blankets, and took the lumpy couch, a simple act of human decency. But as he looked at her designer suit hanging to dry and the platinum watch on his nightstand, a cold knot tightened in his stomach. Her world of power and privilege had violently collided with his world of struggle. He had no idea that by saving her life, he had just invited a force into his home that would challenge everything he had built. The morning sun felt like an intruder, highlighting the dust in his small living room. That's when he found her, not disoriented or grateful, but commandeering his kitchen as if it were a corporate boardroom. Draped in his shirt, she was a paradox of vulnerability and unshakable authority. Her offer of cash for his help wasn't gratitude. It was a transaction. It was the assumption that a man like him did anything without a price tag. The stack of bills on his worn countertop felt like a verdict on his entire life's struggle. His refusal was instant, a visceral reaction. He saw the flicker of surprise in her eyes. The CEO, Victoria Sterling, was not used to being told no. Later, the truth of who she was exploded from the television news. The reporter gushed about the triumphant return of the billionaire CEO, praising the mysterious Good Samaritan she refused to name. Marcus stood frozen, a wooden spoon in his hand, as he saw the empire she commanded, the logo of Sterling Industries looming behind her. This wasn't just a wealthy woman. She was a titan, a person whose whims could reshape cities, and he had just thrown her money back in her face. A cold dread pooled in his stomach. People like her were not challenged. They were obeyed. For 3 days, he tried to bury the anxiety under work and routine, fixing a burst pipe at Zoe's school. But then the purr of a luxury sedan cut through the familiar sounds of children playing. All eyes turned to the predator-like car that did not belong. When Victoria Sterling emerged, crisp and untouchable in a white suit, she walked through the staring parents and teachers as if they were mere scenery. She came to a stop before Marcus, his hands covered in grease, his shirt stained with sweat. She didn't mention the money. Instead, she presented a new truth, this one more dangerous than the last. On her phone was security footage of the rescue, his face clear as day. "You saved my life," she stated, her voice firm. But her apology felt like a preamble. Then came the envelope. The legal documents inside bore the letterhead of his landlord's company. His heart hammered against his ribs as she explained, her tone deceptively gentle, that she had bought the entire building. His lease was paid. The house was his. It was a gilded cage, a solution that felt like a deeper form of imprisonment. This wasn't generosity. It was control. She had unilaterally erased his largest burden, positioning herself not just as his rescuer, but as his owner. The power dynamic was now absolute. He was indebted, his hard-won independence wiped away with a single signature. He stood there in the school parking lot, the grime of his labor on his hands, holding the deed to his own life, given to him by a woman who had just proven she owned everything in it. And he knew, with a chilling certainty, that this was far from over. The air in the school parking lot grew thick and heavy. Marcus's fingers clenched around the deed, the paper crinkling in his grip. The stares from the other parents burned into him, a mix of curiosity and judgment. He saw it all through a haze of rage. This woman, in her pristine suit, had turned his greatest act of character into her own act of charity. She had made him a project. His voice was low, a tremor of controlled fury beneath the surface. "You think you can buy my dignity? You think this piece of paper makes us even?" He gestured around them, at the struggling school, at his own worn-out clothes. "You walk into my life, into my daughter's world, and you throw your money around like it's a solution to a problem you created. This isn't generosity. It's a reminder that you have everything and I have nothing you didn't just decide to give me." Victoria's cool composure finally cracked. A flush crept up her neck. "I'm trying to help you." "Help?" Marcus laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You can't help but see me as a problem to be solved. A poor black man you can lift up and feel good about. You didn't see a person who saved you. You saw a charity case." The words hung in the air, stark and undeniable. For a moment Victoria was silent, her gaze dropping from his. When she looked up, her eyes were different. The corporate shield was gone, replaced by a raw, startling vulnerability. "You're right," she whispered, the confession startling in its quietness. "I saw a man who had every reason to walk away but didn't. I grew up in foster care, Marcus. I know what this struggle feels like. And I clawed my way to the top so I would never feel that helpless again." Her voice broke. "But in that car, I was helpless. And you were the first person in a long time who didn't want anything from me. You just did what was right. And I tried to pay you off like you were just another vendor." She stepped closer, her voice dropping so only he could hear. "The house isn't a payment. It's an apology for forgetting what real strength looks like. It looks like you." Marcus stood motionless, the deed feeling suddenly weightless in his hand. The anger drained away, leaving behind a profound and shocking emptiness. The billionaire CEO, the untouchable titan, had just bared her soul to him in a public parking lot. The world had narrowed to this single, impossible question, whispered on the wind between them. What do you do when your enemy turns out to be just as human as you? The deed to his house remained in Marcus's hand, but its meaning had transformed. It was no longer a symbol of debt, but a testament to his integrity. He accepted it, not as a gift from a CEO, but as an apology from a woman who had finally seen him. Together, they launched the Johnson Fund, a foundation powered by Victoria's resources, but guided by Marcus's lived experience. It wasn't charity. It was partnership, designed to provide real support for single parents fighting the same battles he had. Months later, the sound of laughter filled his newly stable home. Victoria was a frequent guest, her presence no longer that of an outsider but of a chosen part of their world. She and Zoe would build intricate models at the kitchen table, while Marcus worked on blueprints for the fund's first community center. The three of them had forged a family, not from blood, but from mutual respect and a shared belief in second chances. Marcus's story is a stark reminder that systemic injustice often wears the mask of good intentions. It's the assumption that financial power can solve human problems, and the failure to see the profound dignity in those who struggle. He wasn't saved by a handout. He was seen as an equal because he refused to be anything less. His strength forced a powerful woman to confront her own biases, proving that the most revolutionary act is sometimes to simply stand your ground and demand to be seen for who you are, not what you lack. So the next time you witness an act of kindness or see someone struggling against a system stacked against them, ask yourself this: are you truly seeing the human being in front of you, or are you just looking for a problem you can solve with a check? Because dignity is never for sale, but it must always be acknowledged. Type respect. If you believe true change begins when we see the person, not the stereotype,